after reviewing and enjoying the new Vöstra 10 300 gram, I think it's normal to do the Vöstra 10 320 grams. Let's go. So you probably know that I was a user of the Völkl 10 320 gram, and yes, I've moved on from this racket, but it was not because it was a bad racket, and I still really genuinely enjoyed this racket, and that's why I'm using a lot this racket to do some string reviews. So I'm pretty excited to see what the new Vöstra 10 320 gram is gonna bring. But what is different from the Völkl 10 300 gram, which was the older version, compared to the Vöstra 10 320 gram? So the first difference is red cell technology that should increase the comfort, but at the same time the feel of the racket. So best of the both world at the same time. And then you have a tighter string pattern in the middle to increase still the feeling, the control of the ball. And finally, the biggest difference is obviously the V shape in the throat. From what I remember from the Vöstra 9, it was not making a huge difference. It should enlarge the sweet spot, but actually it's more of a cosmetic or, you know, a branding thing. So let's go with the specs, and we're gonna go onto the court. Finally, I'm gonna give my rating. So the specs are pretty classic. So you have a 98 square inch head size with a 16 by 19 string pattern and an unstrung weight of 320 grams. So let's go on the court. On the court with the Völkl Vöstra 10 320 grams, and from the beginning I just felt like the racket was solid. The sweet spot is bigger, it's easier to hit with. I feel like you're creating a lot of pace due to the static weight, which is great. You have a lot of stability, you have a lot of comfort, and this mix makes it just feel really unique but really right, you know. Sometimes you're hitting with a racket, you're like, oh, it's insane for, let's say, spinning, but for other shot, then it's not great. But this racket just makes sense for every shot. I never felt like I was losing pace. I never felt like I was losing spin. Obviously, it's not a spin monster, but I mean, it's doing the job. At the net, it's really stable. Same thing at the serve. So you're never really missing something when you're playing. Obviously, the thing is that you need to be able to move around this 320 gram static weight. But I mean, it's not toughest one, let's say, compared to the Percep 97 D. Yes, I think it's the D, but yeah, it's just easy to move around and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely a great racket. So overall, I think that I've enjoyed more the 320 gram compared to the 300 gram, because I feel like it was just even more solid. You still feel comfort. So what is really cool with this racket is that when you're picking up this racket, it's easy from the get-go, because you have feel, you have comfort. You don't have really to adjust to this racket. The racket is already good. And obviously it's due to the fact that I've been using a lot the Völkl 10 320 gram, that's for sure. But one thing that I felt that was really interesting is that I felt like the sweet spot was a bit bigger compared to the older version. That was probably the only critique that I had with this racket, and it was the fact that the sweet spot was a bit small, I felt. And you know, with customization and LED, you were able to enlarge the sweet spot, but with a 300 gram unstrung racket, it's tough to add some weight, to be honest. But now it's not the case. So you have a racket that is pretty good in terms of sweet spot, with a good weight that will stabilize the racket. You have comfort and you have feel. So that's why I've really enjoyed this racket, and I enjoyed this racket from the baseline. It was giving me enough power. I mean, probably would require a bit more power for me personally. I should go with the 9, which is a bit more powerful, but the power is okay. You have a lot of feel. At the slice, it was incredible. For spin, it's really, really good. And the reason why I've enjoyed a bit more the 320 gram was because I was able to go a bit slower, even though I was accelerating at the contact, which is required to do. But I was just controlling a bit more with a bit more stability compared to the 300 grams. So it was just a bit more easy for me personally. So for the rating, because I gave 9.18 for the 300 gram, I would have to go with 9.19 for the 320 grams. So hope y'all like this review. Don't forget to like, to comment, and to subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.